I'm Ross Mackay. I'm the founder and CEO of Cadence. Cadence is a performance supplement company, really focused on the goal-oriented athlete, specifically around hydration. I'm also a father and a husband, and I live in LA.
What inspired you to progress your business from dairy and foods to now go into more hydration, F&B with drinks, and Cadence specifically? What was the inspiration behind that evolution?
Yeah, I had an amazing, trajectory through my first business, Daring. We were one of the fastest growing companies in America in 2021. So through that, I learned a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but ultimately it landed me where I am today, starting Cadence. A lot of pattern recognition in consumer goods. So whether it's frozen food or beverages, distribution's the same, marketing's the same, branding's the same, and fundamentally, great product, great brand, great community are fundamentally some of the most important things. So what made me to start Cadence was, just like my last company, a need was born. I wanted to scratch that itch. And for me, this opportunity to elevate hydration hadn't been done before. So that's where the whole business came about.
Sweat out, salt in.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because that's such a clean, witty slogan or mission statement. Is that something you sat around a round table? Set the scene for me. Where did that come from?
In the early days of the brand iteration, I literally was like sketching can, and this is one of the statements that came up early on. It was two. One was daily discipline, inspired by the rhythm of daily discipline. That's something that's like our motto. It's our anthem. I have it tattooed on my body. It's everything that the brand stands for. And that's on a higher level mission. When it comes to product and the function, it's sweat out ultimately through exercise and running, and salt in through Cadence hydration. So it's a tongue in cheek. It's kind of our anthem. It's the crack can, down it, sweat out, salt in. And we've tried to build that camaraderie around the community. So it's very deliberate, and we own it. It's trademarkable, and it's started to become kind of the shareable content that's helping grow the brand. Why did I identify electrolytes? Electrolytes are not new. They've been around for a while. I think in the form factor of ready to mix have been around for a while, and the newer format of ready to drink largely haven't been disrupted for a long time. So when you look at the big white space, there's a big monster called Gatorade, generally have been fueling hydration for many, many years and built a massive company, if not one of the largest beverages businesses in the world. And when we looked at the white space, we felt like that was where we wanted to go after. It's the hardest place to play. Canned beverages is generally harder than ready to mix hydration or other innovation. But with that being said, it also is the biggest moat. It's the hardest category to enter, one of. So provides the ability for us to kind of enter it and hopefully scale quick enough that the competitive set can't catch up. Yeah, I think to make it as simple as possible, you have to pressure test your idea. You have to understand about the category using, whether it's AI, Google, whatever it may be. There's a lot of information data out there that will help you underwrite your decision. So is the category growing? You don't want to be entering a category that is declining year over year. For us, electrolytes was growing about 8% a year, I believe. Google searches were up thousands of percent. So generally, I was understanding that, okay, this is a category that is here today, here tomorrow, and hopefully here in 5 years. And within that category, what are the biggest white spaces? For us, go back to it, it was beverage, it was canned. Where is it positioned? Product positioning is super important. Brand positioning is super important. Ultimately, a lot of these liquids or powders are the same, but those powders and liquids are positioned extremely differently. For us, we wanted to go after that athlete. We wanted to be premium in brand, in content, in community, in partnership, not necessarily in price. We're very price comparative to the competitive set, which is important for scale, which we can maybe talk about. But I think product positioning, once you underwrite the gap in the market, is also a big moat. Yeah, so Cadence, we have 3 formulas under one 24-hour hydration system. So we have core, energy, and recovery. Within that system, we have different assets: ready to drink, cold can; ready to mix, which is the powder form; and other, which is our new gel, which is our #1 selling product on our platform. Also top performing on the feed, for example, has done incredibly well. But we have this system rolled through different assets. And within those, there are different channel strategies. What I mean by that is places you sell them. Our beverages are primarily sold today online, but fast forward in 3-4 months, we will be in most major retailers in the country, US. So Target, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, you name it. Why? Because 80+% of consumers in America today will buy a beverage in a store, not online. Therefore, you have to sell where your customer is today. My customer are genuinely not buying beverages online. They're buying beverages at your local shop. Corner shops, major retailers, even Amazon. With the other innovation, it's a little bit more ubiquitous to buy a sachet on Amazon or subscribe online to a pill or a powder form product because it's lighter to ship as well. So all those forms and all those sort of inputs come together. You have to underwrite where you sell it. And with that comes the business model. So, the margin of that channel and also that product, and also the scalability. Is your business ready for that scale? Because a retailer like a Target is thousands of stores that order millions of cans, but you have to be able to produce that. So all those things in this big, massive pot come to your strategy. But thankfully, I've done this before, so I'm kind of coming at it as a second-time founder this time. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've definitely partnered and brought on the right people. Individual Hercules in the UK and Cam K over in the US, both kind of leading community and brand for us in different geographies. But it comes back to what you said. I think we've tried to create through storytelling of the likes of Olympic athletes down to individuals who are setting out to accomplish great things, running across countries, for example, in Australia with Will. And through that storytelling, we've naturally integrated product. And I think as a brand, I've always been inspired by brands like Red Bull that are lifestyle brands. They aren't product focused, they are mission focused. And jumping out of planes or backflips off of, half pipes, for us, it was let's fuel the athlete. Let's find individuals who are aspirational but attainable. You find them at your local run club and leading a run, but also at the same time at the weekend, they're breaking records. And for us, that was always really important. And then utilizing our amazing team internally to tell stories around that you fall in love with. In a world today, you want characters and you want to be able to fall in love with that character. Love them or hate them, you have an opinion. And hopefully that leads into our website, which therefore converts into sales. And I think, you touched on one other thing is we are science-led. We are not for everybody. We are for the goal-oriented athlete. And that might be your first half marathon, your first marathon, your fast ultra, your first 5K. But we aren't the lifestyle brand that is necessarily for 100% of consumers that other brands are. We are for the individual that wants to achieve a goal within a sport and wants to do better, backed by science, informed sport, NSF. We have a head of nutrition called Matt Jones, who's our head of science and nutrition. He's also the head of science and nutrition at the Boston Celtics. So has a high pedigree of data and information. He helps to build all the formulation. So all those things in parallel, all those things together, great brand, great liquid. I personally think that, but also backed by real science, real evidence.
In the electrolyte market, which, like you said, is science-backed, why is it those two that appear to be the things that many people who are trying to do electrolytes are falling on, as in that's what they choose? Have you ever experimented with any ways of delivery? We know the gel's been a big success.
Yeah.
If it's not there now, what's your thoughts on what that could be at some point in the future? Because we know the fitness and the running scene is evolving like crazy.
Yeah.
Have you thought about what that next product could be that is not a thing yet?
We're very obsessed around this consumer and we'll never dumb ourselves down. We want the consumer to elevate up through education, through platforms like this, through information and inputs that are reaching them based on science and education, athletes, etc. And you're seeing that. Look at carbs now. The level of information around carbing up and carb intake on a run has evolved. I mean, 3-4 years ago, I think people were taking a fraction of the carbs they're now taking on a marathon. I mean, 12, 15 gels on a run, for example. Whereas electrolytes is still extremely untapped. You probably couldn't tell me how much sweat loss you lost running Chicago Marathon. You wouldn't know. And most people wouldn't know. So I think when you look at protein as a macronutrient, you know that 30 to 40 grams is about the amount you should take after a weight session. When I asked you how much electrolytes would you take after an hour run, 1 sachet, but what is 1 sachet? Is that 500? Is that 1,000? So all those things being said, our mission is to fuel the athlete, but also educate the athlete. So we want to be the thought leader around hydration. We want to help consumers understand how important it is for their journey and their mission of performing, whether it is a run club, whether it is a marathon, whatever it may be. And for us, in order to achieve that, you have to make the barrier to entry as low as possible. So things like a beverage are so familiar to consumer because they are used to that asset delivery. Cracking a can and enjoying a beverage in a liquid is not obscure. So yes, you can do other formats and maybe shots or gels or tablets or tabs or gummies, but the beverage is so common. 80+% of consumers today will buy a cold drink. So we're entering a market that is already there, providing a better for you liquid, and therefore the level of education isn't as required, for example. So hopefully that makes sense, but it's a roundabout way of saying we're going after a undereducated market with a very familiar delivery system. So hopefully the 2 and 2 can work together. Go back to your question about like global expansion. I think one of the most important things you can do as a founder is stay very focused. I mean, my team will attest the amount of inbound from other countries that we shut down on a global, like daily basis is pretty high. I think you have to penetrate your core market to a certain level of what we call household penetration. How many people out of 100 homes have heard about you or bought you? And generally speaking, we're at 0.001% right now. There's so much white space out there in America and the UK that we need to penetrate with our current innovation before we consider international. We have done some international in Australia, and here first. We are launching in the Middle East, actually in the next few days. But with that said, we've underwritten the right partnerships, we've underwritten the right brand opportunities, the right distribution strategies, the right margin profile for the business. To go back to your question specifically, the first answer is focus. As a founder in the beginning, when you've just got something you want anyone to buy, you're kind of like needing people to buy it. You're willing to sell to anyone. Now, as a company, we are really taking a step back and saying, I don't think that's right for the brand. And we underwrite every opportunity through multiple lenses. One is revenue opportunity. How company changing is this? One is brand, because we see brand as important as revenue. For example, if it is bad for the brand, i.e. putting in a store that's just not aligned to us, we don't want to sit beside these brands. Even if the revenue opportunity is really high, we may or may not do it. So those two will toggle against each other, push and pull. And then the other is allocation of capital and resources. How many people and how much money do I have to spend time-wise and dollar on this opportunity for it to be successful? And if it's really, really, really high, but the revenue opportunity is low and the brand is medium, then we don't do it either. So that's kind of the matrix we work under. It's opinion-based to some extent. There's not a lot of data, but being very focused as a founder on the 3 or 4 things that are company changing in the first few years. You don't have to get every decision right. You need to get 3 home runs. And that's what I would say. Don't focus on perfection, focus on those 3 things. And hopefully the business can evolve to a point where you bring in a team around you to help you make better decisions. I don't actually know, to be honest with you. I started I started daring 4 days after I sold my last company. So I didn't take like paternity leave. I also had a child, at the same time. So much to my wife's dismay, I like probably didn't time it perfectly. Very selfish. You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I do have a level of love and I guess the word obsession over consumer and understanding what makes people make decisions like the ones to go on our website and buy. I also have a love for building brand and building scale and building businesses. So I don't think it will ever end despite potential positive outcomes, whether they be selling a company, whether it be just happily live ever after. Albeit, my work-life balance and the priorities that I, uphold today about spending time with my family, for example, and the non-negotiables there are different from my last company. So with that being said, I think it's if you have an itch and you wake up obsessed about a problem and it keeps you up at night, then, just start. And this issue that we feel needs service through our business and through our community and through my team, I think keeps us all up at night. The level of obsession through my team about the product, the brand, the distribution is like nothing I've ever seen before. And that's ultimately what will make us win.
Do you want Cadence to be a 100-year brand? Do you want it to outlive you?
I want to create a generational defining brand.